Well, it's Monday, and why don't we start the week out with something fun and happy? Happy Sovereignty Day, everybody. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I hope you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful start out to your Monday morning here as we head into another work week. And, well, Danielle Smith, of course, making no gripes with invoking the Sovereignty or the Sovereignty Act today. Now, this will be happening later today at the time of this filming of this video. It'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Now, a lot of people say, hey, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be similar to Scott Moe's threats of no longer collecting carbon tax, where we're not really going to see any push and the province is going to suffer. But I wanted to talk in about this because the CBC has released an interesting article about Danielle Smith. Of course, if you haven't watched our interview from last week, please go back, watch that interview. It was a great sit down with Danielle Smith about oil and gas, about the energy sector and carbon taxes in the country. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens as she invokes the Sovereignty Act on Ottawa Power rules. Well, I guess technically today. Alberta's first use of controversial law to resist the federal policy will be introduced in the legislature. So Danielle Smith government intends to put its Sovereignty Act into motion on Monday, today, to shield Alberta power companies from the proposed federal clean electricity regulations, as CBC News first reported Friday. The province will use the controversial law to introduce a resolution in the legislature that declares Ottawa's plan to slash grid emissions an unconstitutional federal measure and spell out ways the regulations would not be enforced in Alberta, according to the sources familiar with the matter. Now, it's important that we talk about this because for a long time we've been, speculating after Premier Scott Moe in Saskatchewan put forward that he was no longer going to be collecting carbon tax as of January 1st. Well, a lot of people ask Danielle Smith, well, we don't have a crown corporation for our electric grid like Saskatchewan does, and while they still have a crown corporation, it's technically illegal what Scott Moe's doing, and the province may, see some form of punishment from the federal government. So I know I had questions for Danielle when she was in on our interview, and I know she couldn't really spill the beans, so to speak, as to what plans were going to be put into motion, but I always knew there was a plan for Alberta. So this is what her answer to that downvote of the Bloc and the Liberals stopping the rest of Canada from getting what they call carve-outs on carbon tax emission prices. Smith confirmed the news on her Saturday morning radio program, Your Province, Your Premier. She said she was driven to act by frustration with the federal government. We've been trying to work collaboratively, with them on aligning their targets with our targets, she told her radio audience. We will not put our operations at risk of going to jail if they do not achieve the targets that have been set, which we believe are unachievable. We have the best reliable grid. We have to have an affordable grid, and we're going to make sure that we defend our constitutional jurisdiction to do that, she says. The resolution will be tabled for debate and approved in the United Conservative Party-dominated legislature on Monday, Smith confirmed. The government believed electrical generation executives, the government briefed, pardon my dyslexia here, folks, it gets the better of me sometimes. The government briefed electrical generation executives about their intentions on Thursday. So again, this was in the works. It's a long time coming. And a lot of people have been asking when she's going to invoke the Sovereignty Act. So here we go, folks. After repeatedly threatening to do so, this will be the first time Smith's government actually puts into place the provocative law that it passed last December, formally calling the Alberta Sovereignty within the United Canada Act. Smith devised it as a way to enable the province to, quote, push back against federal interference and encroachment on provincial jurisdiction. One of her consistent threats has been the use of the act in hopes of thwarting clean electricity regulations. The suite of rules designed to implement the Trudeau government's plan for a net zero power grid by the year 2035. The regulations would put clear limits on when and how emitting power sources like Alberta's natural gas burning plants can be used starting in 2035, though it does not ban their use entirely. So it's interesting to see, what is going to come from the use of this act. We've never seen the act used before. As we can see, Danielle's prepared to go to war for Alberta. She's prepared to fight for Albertans to have a fair future. It's going to be really interesting. The vast majority of Alberta's electricity currently comes from natural gas, and Smith has vowed to do everything she can to fight Ottawa's plans, including an $8 million national advertising campaign urging other Canadians to fight as well. Alberta has demanded the federal plan aim for a net zero grid by 2050 instead of 2035. Canada has committed to its entire economy being carbon neutral by 2050. After soft-pedaling any talk using the Sovereignty Act during last spring's election, the government reiterated earlier warnings in the provincial throne speech last month. It spoke of several motions that lay out the jurisdiction-protecting initiatives that if the federal government continues down its current path. Smith reiterated her determination to fight Ottawa's 2035 regulations on Wednesday. We know that we have the constitutional jurisdiction. We know that they're acting in a way that's outside of their boundaries, the Premier told a news conference. And we've seen that time and time again as Justin Trudeau's No More Pipelines bill was shot down in the federal court. We were told that it was unconstitutional. We've seen that with the plastics ban where they say unconstitutional as well. So again, this is why I feel this is going to be an interesting to see what happens. Now, I wanted to get down to the regulations that are still in draft form. While the Sovereignty Act would allow MLAs in the legislature to deem the federal CER unconstitutional or otherwise harmful to Alberta, the regulations aren't currently in legal force. They're only in draft form with no clear timeline on when final regulations will be released. However, the first law Premier Smith has passed is permitted to be used against any, quote, federal initiative, even if it is only proposed or anticipated. Smith was emboldened to amp up her language about Ottawa's lawlessness after the recent Supreme Court ruling that much of the Federal Impact Assessment Act was intruding on provincial jurisdiction. However, legal experts have said that ruling would have no effect on the grid regulations, which rely on the different source of federal powers. To that I say, in terms of what it does for you and I on a daily basis, does it have an effect? Not necessarily. But when you see premiers pushing back, raising their voices, fighting against the federal government, trying to find every way possible to show that enough is enough, whether it goes through or not, whether it's taken seriously by the federal government or not, these are good things because what they do is they get people amped up to start supporting their, their local governments, like their provincial premiers, and say, yeah, you know what, we've had enough too. And when another election comes around, this can greatly benefit votes that are going out to other parties, that people start maybe waking up and saying, look, all these premiers are pushing, saying it's unconstitutional. The federal courts have said this is unconstitutional. I can't support something that's unconstitutional. I'm going to vote other ways. And it also adds pressure to politicians like Justin Trudeau or Jagmeet Singh to be asked if you want to, keep your seat, which we all know neither of them is going to. But as for the rest of their MPs, if they want to keep their seats moving forward, what is it you're going to do to actually benefit the people? If you look at the polls and the recent polling, it shows that Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives are way out in front at this point, with NDP almost overtaking the Liberals. Every single Liberal sitting in that House of Commons right now should be scared and worried about their jobs going forward and what that means when the writing's on the wall at the end of the day. Again, going to be very interesting to see what Danielle Smith brings out with this. What effect it has socially, what effect it has against pressure on the federal government. Well, let me know what you guys think down below. I'm sure there's going to be lots of nothing's going to happen, but let me know your opinions down below in the comments as we move forward. And while you're at it, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, if this is your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that button to click your bell for notifications. Join us live every Sunday night here on the channel for our weekly wrap where we go over everything that's happened in the week prior, everything coming up in the week ahead. And we have a little bit of back and forth with the community and hear what you guys have to say. And it's always good to get to know you guys outside of making these videos. I always enjoy sitting around having a good chat between you guys and getting to know you guys on the side of making these videos. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.